Hello, everybody. How are you on this Tuesday, November 2nd, Election Day? You are here with the Burn, Mitch. My name is Mitch Bernstein on 12 Ounce Sports Network. You are either listening to me on Twitter or on Facebook or on Zingo TV channel 761. Looking forward to a great show here. Have a few quick little. I have something I have to do real quickly. Um, um, I must respond to my guest coming on in a few minutes later, Kurt Smith, author. I'll tell you about him in a minute. So, welcome. Glad you're here. Um, Absolutely continue to love this time of the year. Though hopefully tonight the baseball season doesn't end. I'm hoping for a game 7 that the Astros do end up winning. I'll get you on my thoughts on that in a minute. I just want to tell you about the show. Um, as usual, Garnet Valley High School head coach Mike Rickey will be coming on, and he and I will be talking about the last game of the season that they won in a driving rainstorm. Just nasty out there. Um, they beat Lower Merion, which was expected, and now the second season begins starting Friday with a team they've already played. And he and I talked about that also a couple of weeks ago, Haverford. So we'll talk to him in a little bit, and after that, baseball folks, old and young. I have an amazing guest coming on. I'm telling him right now that all he has to do is click on the link that I sent him to get him on. That's all he has to do. But he is an author. Kurt Smith has authored 18 books, many of them, most of them, baseball broadcaster books. In other words, about baseball broadcasters. Some about Fenway Park, a lot about Boston Red Sox because he's a Boston Red Sox fan. Um, Hold on one second. I'm just letting him know what he has to do. And he also was a speechwriter for George H.W. Bush. So a lot of talent in the writing arena, if you will. So Kurt's going to come on and talk about his book and maybe a bunch of his books. He goes back a ways, and I have one question to ask him about perhaps a follow-up to a book he wrote back in about 10 years ago. So lots of thoughts about baseball broadcasters. That's going to be a fun conversation for baseball fans. Finally, we're going to bring in Jeff Warren. Jeff is the host of the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast. We are going to talk about the Eagles. I put out there on Twitter, I'm going to ask him, was that a fake win or was it a real win? And we'll talk about that. A couple other things going on. Going to have a giveaway. I've got some football cards, some rookie cards, Devonta Smith, and I've got a bunch of, let's see, another Devonta Smith rookie card right there. And if hopefully you're watching, you can see these. You can look at these. We'll post these on Twitter also. Jalen Rager's. Okay, we're going to give those away. And let's see, what do I have? I have a Miles Sanders card right here. And last but not least, I have a bunch of Jalen Hurts cards. Some of them are rookies. Here is what they look like. All right. We'll announce what I'm going to do for the giveaway when Jeff comes on. It's going to be simple, very easy to try and win a couple of these. But we're going to get it done anyway. We're going to ask you to enter if you want to win with some of these. If you're a card collector, get these young players. If you're a collector and you want to get them, you'll get into the contest and we'll see what happens. We'll tell you how to do that a little bit later in the show. So that's it on the show. Sports news today, Deshaun Jackson released by the Rams today. And we'll talk to Jeff about where his best fit is. Is it back with the Eagles? Dare we say yes? I don't think so. Um, but he's supposedly got something left in him, so we'll see where he ends up. Interesting news there. Game 6 of the World Series. My take is this. Unfortunately for me, because I don't want the Braves to win, I do believe that Max Fried will come back with a good effort tonight. He got bombed several days ago, and Luis Garcia is showing up to the mound for the Houston Astros on 3 days rest. And as a young kid coming up out on the mound in a World Series game, an elimination game, have him pitch under pressure. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think the Braves are going to get out to a quick lead. I think they'll keep the lead. The Astros will score a couple of runs. If the Braves score 3 in the first 3 innings, you're going to see Jake Odorizzi, I believe, come in. And they're saving Urquidy for Game 7. But you know what? You got to win Game 6 to get Game 7. So I don't know who knows what's going to happen with the Astros if they end up making it a somewhat of a bullpen game. If Garcia can't go long in the game, if you can't give him, 3, 4, 5 innings, you're going to see Odorizzi maybe for 2 or 3, and then we'll see what happens. It depends what the bats are going to do against Max Fried. Max Fried has been awesome for most of the postseason. I do kind of feeling he's going to get back on track and do a number on these Astros hitters. The Astros are home. That could make a difference in the way they feel and the way they focus in this elimination game. So, interesting time in baseball. If the season ends tonight, I know that there's no baseball until February, which is a bummer for me. But at least then I look forward to what my Phillies are going to do in the offseason. Dave Dombrowski, what is he going to do with that team? We've talked about this a lot. I'm not going to continue to talk about it much tonight, but it's going to be interesting for the entire offseason. Who's going to, a lot of free agents out there, good free agents. Do teams have the money to spend? We'll see what happens. So that's it. Hockey continues to roll, as does the NBA. NBA Sixers playing without Ben Simmons and doing rather well. We'll see what happens on that front as the season progresses. Does Ben Simmons stay with the Sixers? Does he get his head together? Boy, I kind of wish he would get back there and play like crap, and then there's a reason for them to say, okay, you're out of here. And he'll get booed, and then he'll say, "Oh, my head's not in it," and we'll know the head's not in it because he can't play for people with people booing at him. So that's the way. It. I see it as we go forward with the NBA and the World Series. But let's get back to football. That being high school football, and bring in the coach. Coach Mike Rickey is back. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Mitch, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Did you enjoy the torrential downpour on Friday? I sure did for my not being there.
I'm just getting dried out now. In 38 years, I've never had rain like that before.
Darn, I wish I could have been there. Mike, I wanted to go, but I'm thinking, do I really want to drive from Abington to get down there?
I don't blame you.
I mean, it's like I felt bad. I really. You came out to the field.
Yeah, they did. They had well, I'll tell you, they had a tunnel formed in the middle of that monsoon from the door to the locker room all the way up to the field, and we came out, and this tunnel is formed. I had no idea it was for me.
I know that. I knew it was for you.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was for me. I thought, oh, this is great. These guys, 4-time Central League champs, the chance to win it all. And then I'm like halfway through and I see some guys that graduated in like 1985. I said, you guys are too old to be standing out here. What are you doing? And they're like, Coach, this is for you. I was completely dumbfounded. I was completely floored by that. It was really, really nice.
That's awesome. I really wanted to be a part of that too. Yeah, it was out on Facebook. It was a surprise. We're glad you were surprised. It's awesome. Um, and you brought home another win, the undefeated season. Awesome, congrats on that. I watched the game. You know, again, we weren't really concerned about the outcome, but as we said, and we both know, rain is the equalizer. You said it last Tuesday, and if it wasn't raining, I'm assuming the score would have been a lot more to a lot less, but there were some turnovers and some plays that didn't go your way, but you still came out with the victory.
Yeah, there were actually 12 fumbles during the course of the game between both teams. And I think we were probably the fewest. I think one of the other games had 16 fumbles, another one had 18 fumbles.
Oh
Uh,
man.
it was really torrential. It was, we only ran 16 plays in the entire first half, and we were up 31-0.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided at halftime just to pull all the starters and let the backups get in there and some of the younger guys and just see what happened. And it was, unfortunately, it wasn't a running clock. That was the only thing that, in retrospect, maybe we should have just gone out and scored again and got that clock moving a little bit because
Mm-hmm.
I had a complete rain outfit on and pocket zippered up, and I had gloves in my pocket. And when I pulled them out after the game, it looked like they were in a creek for the last hour.
Those pockets didn't work too well, did they? Oh man. Yeah, it was. I mean, you could see it when I was watching on YouTube. They had the long shot and with the lights, and you just saw the sheets of rain coming through the lights. Yeah, like you said, first 38 years. This is the worst storm you ever saw playing.
Worst we ever played in. Yep, that I
Yeah.
remember.
So how's the team health wise?
So Matt Collins, we got notice on Thursday that Matt Collins, he's the player, defensive lineman, who hurt his knee in the very first practice of the year this year. They told him there was a outside chance that he might be able to get back by the end of the season, and he got cleared on Thursday, so he was able to. We got him a few reps in the game on Friday, and I know not only was he ecstatic, but the whole rest of the team, the energy on the team, just went through the roof when we found out that Matt Collins was going to be back. The kids love him. He's such a hard worker, and I'm so thrilled that he was able to get that opportunity to come back out there. Other than that, we were lucky in the game. We had a couple guys that were just slightly banged up, but I don't think it's going to be anybody that's going to have to miss a game this week. So other than Jason Bernard and Chris Reed, those guys are out for the rest of the year.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
to senior Chris Reed and junior Jason Bernard, we're pretty healthy coming into the game this week.
All right, good. Let's keep him healthy for the next 5-6 weeks. So we did talk about the possibility of repeat opponent, and that is happening on Friday with Haverford. You beat them soundly. I think it was October the 15th. I think it was 55 to whatever to 14 or something like that. That mindset for those kids with that game goes away, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny. We did win 55-14, and we actually had just about 500 yards of offense in the first half of that game. But when we go back and watch a film, and this is what we told the kids yesterday, and going back and watching that film, A, it wasn't as easy as it looked, and B, we didn't play as well. And it's never as good as you think, and it's never as bad as you think during the
Mm-hmm.
course of the game. And there were a lot of things that we did not do well in that game that we need to get cleaned up. And our message to these guys always is, we prepare no matter who we're playing, we prepare exactly the same. And, we'll use that film as another tool to, find flaws that we need to fix so that our ultimate goal is to be the best team we're capable of becoming. And we're not there yet.
Yeah, it's I read on the Delaware County News on my iPad about this kid that I think you played at Haverford. I forget his name. Um, but how did they? Are you getting? So now that you're seeing them again, do you get film from this most recent game they played last Friday too?
Yep. So they have a couple guys back who did not play in our game. They have their
Okay.
lineman back, or one of their best linemen back, two-way lineman. did not play against us, and one of their outside linebackers, number 9, and their leading receiver did not. One of their leading receivers did not play against us. So that's 2 big losses for them that they didn't have in our last game. And they're an explosive. Like I said last time we played them, they averaged 32 points a game. They scored 55 points on Saturday or Friday in that monsoon. So this is a team who can put points up on the board, and they're capable of scoring from anywhere at any time. So, they're a couple big plays away from being right back in our game. They drove in one of the plays, it was 14-0, I think. They drove down the field. They had the ball first and goal on the 2, and CJ Wood caused a fumble that we recovered, and then we hit Will Rosneski with a long pass, and we scored like 3 plays from down there. But that would have been a different ball game had they scored that. So there's, unfortunately, you can't pick up where you left off last game. Yeah, everybody's in it. Everybody's got an equal shot. Everybody's coming ready to go, and that's why they play the game. So we need to be ready to roll.
So the kids, when they hear, again, from the kids' mindset, that these 2 players will be coming back, will be playing, and they didn't play. You tell them that, and right. So what's the mindset then at that point, and what's the teaching that goes on with what that might impact them as they're on the field with playing against them?
Well, we tell them that more to let them know that this is going to be a better team than we played last time. That it's not just going to be, we're not just going to line up and Haverford's going to say, okay, Garnet Valley, go ahead, it's your game. They're going to come out, they're going to try to establish something. They're going to, it's going to be. My feeling is we need to get up early and establish that we're in control of the game. If we can do that, I think now they have a doubt in their mind, and we can, if not, it's going to be a heck of a football game, I think.
Yeah, which you don't want. Yeah, you want to come out and punch them in the mouth early and put pedal to the metal. Maybe get a turnover or 2, but no penalties. Right. I mean, I saw a couple, right? Because those are the things that I've seen at some point during the seasons with any team. I mean, you watch the NFL. I mean, the guys are driving down the field. I think it was last night with Kansas City. They were moving. I mean, Jarvis Kelce fumbles the ball.
Right.
What's going on with Kansas City Chiefs? Are they just not focused? Is it 2 long years winning the Super Bowl and then getting it in there again? And are their minds just like gone to mush? Have they lost a little bit of focus? So you said the Jets won, right?
Right.
Well, you don't know.
It's hard to be the top team all the time because everybody comes after you. Mm-hmm. First of all, so you get everybody's A game. The other thing, and this is something that we've been guarding against with our guys, everybody tells you how good you are. Mm-hmm. Everybody and their brother wants to tell you, oh, you guys can do this, and they have us, already playing for a state championship, and we have a long way to go before we get there. And if we for 1 second take our eyes off of where we are and look ahead, we're in trouble. And that's what I love about this group is I can guarantee you that will not happen with this group of guys. They will not let that happen.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this all year with the focus and how they have been trained by you and I don't doubt it either. Planning for them on your end. Again, going back to the tape, you see what worked against them. We've talked at length. They're not going to if they put in a new defense, they're not going to really be able to learn it that well in a week. So are you anticipating similar style from them on both the offensive and defensive side? And then you attack the way you attacked before?
Well, offensively, I think they're going to do what they do because they've been very successful. It would be foolish for them to change that. I think they might take a few more chances. They have nothing to lose, and go back to some of the things that worked for them in the last game. Defensively, you never know. Like if they do the same thing, I can't imagine they're going to do exactly the same thing because, we really found some flaws in what they were doing last time. And the guy there, Joe Powell, is a really good defensive coordinator. So I have an idea that he'll come up with something a little bit different, and we're going to have to figure out what that is and then adjust from there.
Yeah, it's so interesting, the game of football. I mean, basketball is too, and but more with football because it's a play at a time as opposed to, again, we've talked about this. constant movement, hockey and basketball, right? Boom, boom, boom. You adjust, maybe at a timeout, see something going on. But you guys, play after play after play, it kind of gives you a little bit, I think, in my mind, you can see, you have the ability to see what they're doing if they switch something up. And you guys, as coaches, talk on the sideline and say, or perhaps wait till halftime, like you did several weeks ago. You made the adjustment, and then boom. But your kids are very astute, and I love the fact that they come to you guys on the coach on the sideline and say, "Hey, coach," you ask them, and they tell you, which is great.
Yep, absolutely. That's to me when we have our best teams is when the players on the field can come off and say, "Look, did we have this and we have this and we have this? Let's make sure we run that."
Right. Just curious, when there is a bad penalty or a fumble, does obviously that kid who does who commits the penalty? I mean, there was one bad one I saw, and you weren't very happy, and I wouldn't have been either. He just kind of maybe he forgot where he was. It was the right tackle, I think, and he just came up quick. And it's like, oops, he lost where he was for a second, I think, and that's not good. But do other people talk to him? Do the kids talk? Do they self-regulate?
Yes. There's different things that will cause me to get upset. For instance, certain fumbles I have no problem with because sometimes somebody just puts a helmet on the ball, and if the guy has it in the right position and high and tight and does all the fundamental things, then there's nothing you can do about that. In that particular play you're talking with, we lined up in the wrong. He lined up in the wrong formation. I have zero tolerance for that because we practice it every day. You're a senior. You're getting in the game. You have a chance to make a play, and you line up. It's a critical situation, and you line up in the wrong spot. And that's why he got up because he knew he was in the wrong spot.
I figured
5-yard penalty. So that to me is an unforgivable sin. You can't that can't happen.
So Mike, if he had, it would have been better to have just stay there and run the play without him causing the penalty. Is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Okay.
It would have been better if he just lined up where he's supposed to.
Well, that makes sense. But if he lines up incorrectly, he just probably should have said, "Okay, crap,
Right.
wrong."
So what happened was, and to the further part of your question,
yeah,
the kids were great with him. Coaches talked to him when he came on the sideline. He didn't come anywhere near me for whatever reason, but and he went right back in. He's a really good kid, and he's a really hard worker. And it's I always say that's never because I don't like you. It's because I know you're capable of doing better, and we expect you to do those fundamental things every time.
Yes, you're disappointed, and you expect to do the right thing, right? That's what you want.
That's not something that has anything to do with athletic ability, and that's just losing. That's just not focusing in the moment, and you have
exactly.
control.
All right. Couple things before we get to memories at Mike. So I want to show you something real quick. I'm going to ask me how I look with these. There's I don't know if you can see on the bottom of my screen. There's a little website there. It's called Team Clicks. So it's a new brand of sunglasses that people listening, if you were interested in getting in on some of these, here's what's interesting and fun about this. These are for every professional team. You can get them. This is a Phillies arm. Okay, I got Phillies arms, right? They have Eagles ones. They call it clicks because you can click it off. And I bought one for the New York Rangers, like hockey sticks, and you click them back on again, and they have a different arm. So anybody watching or listening, if you're interested in purchasing some of these, go to this Team Clicks. We'll put them on the website. We'll put them out there. Holidays are coming up. Coach Ricky would look really good in some of these. I don't know if they. I'll see if they have any, some garnets. We'll check that website and see. It might not be if it's just garnet, it'll work. But I want to throw that little plug in there, Mike. Memories from Mike. What do you got?
So I was reminded of something that happened in our state championship game. So in 2007, our fullback for most of the season was a player named Vince Rosano. And we were playing Oxford in week 8 or 9, late in the season. And Vince tore his ACL. and it was crushing. He was one of the top, most well loved guys on our team. And I'm sorry, Jerry Rosano. Vince's his younger brother. This was Jerry Rosano. Jerry Rosano, and he was in agony, and it was a crushing blow because that team was so close. And so what we did was we moved Jared Bonaquisti. He was one of the halfbacks. We moved him into fullback. Chris Paleo went to halfback, and they continued on and went to the state championship. So on the day of the state championship game, we're up in Hershey. It was, if you remember, there was snow on the field. It was freezing cold, and our team is out on the field warming up. And we're out in our pregame warm up, and we have everything scripted, and we do everything the same, and we've been doing it the same for the last 30 some years. And as we're in the middle of warm up, I'm out there getting ready to talk to a reporter from Channel 6, I think, and I notice our entire team leaves the field. Everybody, all the players, everybody's gone. And here, Jerry Rosano had surgery on his knee a day or two before, and his dad brought him up to the game in a wheelchair and rolled him onto the field. And when our guys saw, it was, I get teared up now just thinking about it. When they saw Jerry Rosano come onto that field, they just completely stopped everything they were doing and made a beeline over to him to welcome him to be part of it. And it was such a cool thing that a couple months later, I got a phone call from a guy that I didn't know who was at the game, who saw that gesture by our team and made a donation to our booster club because he was so moved by what he saw.
Wow.
Yeah, completely unscripted, just a really one of those genuine moments that happens, and it just was really cool.
And again, credit to the culture. That is the culture that you've built. That will absolutely continue, I'm sure, after this year. But yeah, that just makes you and the community feel, us know how this team is built. And again, you also credit cheerleaders, the band, everybody is part of what goes on there. And that's just, when somebody like you can recognize everybody else that's a part of all this, that makes it that much more special for those other kids.
Sure.
They may have you as a teacher, but now they see you as coach, and coach, we let him do his thing, right? Whatever that level of stature is, if you will. But then when they see you, thank them, it means a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
And so that just goes on to prove, again, what you've meant to these kids over the years and the entire community, my kids included. So, that's a great piece of work, memory by you. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Mike, I will watch Friday night. I look forward to seeing you on the sidelines and the team play well, beat up Haverford, and then go on to the next. Keeping our fingers crossed. Not saying it will happen. You never say that, but you're going to do your darndest to get that win. And we are everybody pulling for the Jags to win this game on Friday and get into the second game of the playoffs.
That's the hope. Thanks, Mitch. I appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, Mike, take care. Stay well. Thanks for coming on again. Appreciate it. Talk to you next week.
Okay. So long.
Take care. All right, that was Coach Mike Rickey, Garnet Valley folks. Thank you for watching. Yes, I was talking about this. I didn't mean to pull it out there that quickly, but I had people watching. This is a new brand of sunglasses. Let me tell you a little bit about them. If you're interested in purchasing them, and here's what it's all about. So they're called Team Clicks. You go teamclicks.com. Every major sport is represented by these arms, and you can get different color lens. You can get the glass himself, the outline, blue, white, red that I have. And again, these arms, this is a Phillies. This is the Phillies one. You can see the stripes on the side. This is a New York Ranger one. They don't have the logos, but they have the colors. There is for the Eagles, it's green, obviously. So let me tell you a little about it. you want to look cool. You can't always wear the jersey or other team gear, and it is sunny out all during the winter. Why not get a new pair of sunglasses, right? Like I said, every football, baseball, hockey, and basketball professional team is design is available. Um, as you saw me, the arms are detachable. So if you want to take this off, you want to get a Phillies and an Eagles, okay? You click it here. You can see the little click. I'll show this to you right here. Okay, you click that, you press on it, you take it off. It's very simply put it back on again. So you get multiple arms for different teams if you want to rep. I'm repping the Rangers. You can get them in prescriptions. You can get blue light blockers. They're available. Okay. Um, they are assembled. It's actually out of Philadelphia, in the United States, and developed by a U.S. based team. And they're all sports fans. So if you're looking for a gift for your sports fan in your team, check out teamclicks.com. If you can see my screen, click on that, copy and paste it. I've also put it out there on my Twitter page on Phil's Fanatic and The Burn with Mitch, and you can click on that and get a pair of glasses. It's a great website. Go on there. It's, again, teamclicks.com, and get some new sunglasses for your favorite sports fan. All right, so thanks to Mike. Appreciate it. Glad he could come on. I'm going to, again, just tell Kurt to click on the link, and Kurt will come on real soon. Whoops, I'm putting something in wrong. Click on the link. All right. Baseball fans, you're going to love this conversation. We're talking about broadcasters. We go way back, and we're going to go to the present. It's going to be awesome. Like I said, Kurt's written 18 books, many of them baseball. Was a speechwriter for George H.W. Bush, so he knows how to write. His most recent book is called Memories from the Microphone, and it talks about the last 100 years in broadcasting, which started with radio, and then obviously television came along, and that brought a whole new dimension of baseball broadcasting, play-by-play, into the mix. Obviously, those of you who listen to radio broadcasts of any sport, it's more detailed, right? You got a picture in your mind of what's going on the field or on the ice or on the court. So that changed when TV came along, and we'll talk to Kurt a little bit about that. And then we're going to name some names, give Kurt some names of broadcasters, primarily baseball. Actually, it's all baseball. And ask him to say a few words about these guys. For instance, I've got Ernie Harwell from the Tigers, Vin Scully, obviously from the Dodgers, Bob Uecker, Ken Coleman, Gary Cohen, Mets, Ned Martin. I'm not sure who Ned Martin is. I don't know that. Kurt Gowdy, Phil Rizzuto with the Yankees, Frank Messer with the Yankees, Ralph Kiner, Lindsey Nelson, Bob Murphy with the Mets in the 60s and 70s, Jack and Joe Buck, Cardinals, Bob Wolf, Denny Matthews, Harry Callis, Harry Carey. Those two, then with that last one, I bet you he's got some really good stories about Harry Carey. He's also in Chicago, Ken the Hawk Harrelson, which was put into the Hall of Fame this year. So we're going to talk to him about his book. And if you go on authorkurtsmith.com, it is just, he's got a list of all the books that he's written, and you can see that he's a Boston Red Sox fan, which is great. He's got a couple of books specific to the Red Sox. He's got one specifically on Vin Scully. So it's really, really, he started writing these back in, I think, 2001. So I'm going to ask him when he comes on if there are updates to some of these books, because one of the books, Voices of the Summer, in 2005, he wrote this came out. He ranked broadcasters. And I don't know if this ranking has been updated. So we'll talk to him about that and what goes into the ranking. And I also want to ask him, is this play-by-play announcers, and what does he talk about with the colormen, the analysts? Where do they fit in? Does he have a pair of play-by-play and analysts together that he would rank as 1, 2, 3, and so forth? So um, Kurt should be on in just a minute. Hopefully he clicks on that link and we can get him on, and we'll talk to him a little bit about broadcasting in baseball and current, maybe I don't know, he just wrote a book. Will another one be coming out? So we'll talk to him about that in just a second. Hopefully he will not have a problem clicking on that link and getting in. So I'm hoping. I just Facebook messaged him. Hopefully he's got that ability to click it. I'm going to tell him I'm ready to go, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully this works. Kurt is hopefully clicking that link, and we'll talk to him about these broadcasters. A lot of people don't like Joe Buck. I don't mind Joe Buck. I mean, where you sense when your team is playing, like when the Phillies won the World Series in 08, not very many people, including myself, were enamored with Joe Buck. And it does happen a lot. So he really does some things in terms of isolating folks from one team when they're playing, like in a World Series, but he's not broadcasting the World Series right now. But we'll see what happens. I mean, when he does the Eagles games, it doesn't seem like a lot of fans are engaged with Joe Buck doing Eagles games because they always seem to be playing a team that Joe Buck, likes better than the Eagles. So people say. So we'll see. I'll ask Kurt about biases. If he has, he feels that Joe Buck is biased, and has he heard that? Because I'm sure there's lots of people that have, and again, I've been part of that. But in general, Joe Buck, to me, is a good announcer. His dad, Jack Buck, was the best, one of the best all time. So we'll see. We'll give him some names. Like I said, we'll talk to him. I was in the East Coast watching Yankees and Mets back in the day. Side note, Jerry Remy, may he rest in peace. Well, let's see. He says he's on. I don't have you. All right, I don't have him. All right, so having a little technical difficulty with Kurt with that link. Let's see. He says he's on, but I don't see him. Okay, he hit the link and it's not working. All right, folks. Let's see if we can do something again. We're going to, live radio, this is what happens sometimes. I'll see if I can get him. Let's see what he says. Okay, we're trying here, folks. Thank you for your patience. I really want to try and get Kurt on because it's going to be a fun discussion. But I'm hoping he can click that and I see his face soon on here. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. Oh, bummer. He's trying to get on, and hopefully we can get him on to talk as we speak. Let me see. I'm going to ask him. I'm going to ask him if I should send another link. Let's see. Click to join. Yep. For some reason, he's not coming on. Well, folks, what I may have to do is get him another link to get on, and I'll see if I can do that. I asked him that question. Um, the other thing we can do is I can have him call me, but I'll have to he's fill out a form. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a break for a second. Um, I'm gonna have him call me, and we'll do this through the phone. So if that's the only way we do it, we'll do it. We won't get to see him, but we'll talk to him. A few minutes. Okay. Uh, okay. I apologize for this, folks. I know it's hard to just see me not doing anything, but we're going to try and get this guy on because it's really important. My number, let me put this in. Okay. All right. Now, unfortunately, the only time I don't have my phone with me is right now. Um, so give me a second while I retrieve the phone. And I'll be back in just a moment. Oh, okay. Let me tell him to call my number. Whew, that was tough. All right, here we go. Okay. All right. Here we go. I'm going to get him on the phone and we'll talk to Kurt. I'm huffing and puffing because I had to get in my car and get my phone. And it figures the only time I don't bring my phone with me during the show is when I have a little glitch and I need the phone. So, Kurt's calling me in just a second. We'll do it over the phone best we can. We try and problem solve the best way we can when we have a glitch. And that's what I'm doing right now. So Kurt's going to call. And then I'm going to have Jeff Warren come on at a little bit, maybe 7:35 to talk Eagles. So, let's see what we got. So I'm waiting for Kurt to call. Okay, Kurt, I'm ready. Give me a call, buddy. Call me. Come on. While we're waiting, I have a shout out. Shout out tomorrow. Birthday. Fiance turned husband. Sean Perry. Sean Perry had a wedding. He was the husband. He's now the husband. He was the fiance. He is now my son-in-law. His birthday's tomorrow. He turns a ripe old 31. So shout out to Sean Perry on that. Okay. Still waiting for Kurt to call. All right. Come on, Kurt. I'm waiting for you. I want to talk broadcasters. We only have 20 minutes now. Oh, I hate this. We may have to have him come on again. See what we can do about this link. We may have to help him figure out how to get on here. Wanted to talk about, while we're waiting for him to call, baseball. We did talk about a little bit at the beginning of the show. Max Fried versus Luis Garcia. Advantage Max Fried. I want the Astros to win. I want to go game 7. I want the Braves to lose. I wanted to go game 7. Because the Astros have their starter Urquidy, and it'll be, listen, we all know a game 7. All hands on deck, both teams, if it gets there. So we will see what happens with that tonight. I just have a feeling that Max Fried is going to play well. So here he comes. He's calling me right now. We're going to get Kurt on. And then we'll see. Here we go. Hello, Kurt.
Yes, how are you?
Good, Kurt. How you been?
Well, I've been fine. I've until the last 10, 12 minutes trying to get you.
I know. We're having a little problem. But that's okay. You know what? The show must go on.
Reschedule or something? Or?
Yeah, well, we'll talk a little bit more. We can still talk. And then, because I do want to talk to you a little bit about, we still have 20 minutes to talk about your book and the history of broadcasting. So thank you for being patient, and we'll figure out how to get that link working for you at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I've hit the link, but then I get to the picture, I can see myself for all the good that does. And, it says ready to join and enter your name and all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and it didn't work, huh? That's weird. That's really, because that's what you needed to do.
I mean, I wasn't told that.
Oh, okay.
I was told that I had to call this link and that, you folks would take it from there.
Yeah, the link should have worked. I don't know why it didn't, but I apologize for that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, right. So very intrigued that I found you because I am a huge baseball fan. And as Jason Stark, I believe, once said, and this is paraphrasing, we become friends, and our broadcaster friends are our family at some point. A lot about broadcasters. Your new book came out in August of this year, called Memories from the Microphone. So tell us a little bit about that book. Tell the folks, the baseball fans out there, what you did in terms of getting that book together.
Well, this is the 100th anniversary in August of this year of the first baseball game ever broadcast on radio across state there in KDKA Pittsburgh. And it was then all of the grand total of 100 watts, so we're not quite sure how many people were listening or what the reception was, except the transmitter would break down from time to time. But Harold Arlen was the Cortez, or the Coronado, if you would, of baseball on the air. He went to Forbes Field in Pittsburgh. He bought a box seat behind the screen. He put a plank of wood over his seat. He used that to implant the transistor, and away he went. And the game was played in the grand sum of 1 hour and 57 minutes. How time has changed.
Yes.
But the Pirates beat the Phillies 8-5, and it was broadcasting on the fly. No one had ever done it, so he had no one patted himself after. And he did, so I understand at least, because nothing remains from that broadcast, of course. It was a very Spartan encapsulation. He gave the pitch, there's a pitch, it's outside ball one, and that was it. And 20 seconds later, you'd hear him announce ball two or strike two, but it was the next pitch. And so it's more from there, really. And of course, Arlen, KDKA has broadcast Pirates games to this day. Graham McNamee was then his follower, if you would, on a national scale. His nickname was the King. And from 1923 through 1934 on network radio, he broadcast every World Series, even though his knowledge of the game was cursory at best. So this is how it began. Most of America did not get local coverage and didn't get so until into the 30s or 40s. So if you were, for example, west of the Mississippi and south of Washington, the only baseball that you heard all year was McNamee doing the World Series, and then once the All-Star Game in 1933 began, that as well. But it was very hit and miss. And geographically, you were best off if you were in the Northeast, because 13 of 16 teams broadcast by radio. They were all in the Northeast. And this is how really a nation, or at least part of it, really became entranced by baseball, first on radio, and then, of course, beginning in the late 1940s, television as well.
And it's interesting, as I was thinking about you coming on, Kurt, the thought process of that transition from radio to television, and how that probably changed, or do you know, did it change? Because we all listened to the radio. Well, I know I did, and I'm 65, right? And the construct of television brought you a face and the words coming right from that face. And it wasn't as detailed as it has to be on radio. So interesting how that's happened and how it's transformed to today, isn't it?
Right, it is. But keep in mind that until the 1950s, really, or even thereafter, most of the voices on television got their start on radio. So they brought to the kinetic tube the rhythm and the pattern of baseball on radio, where basically, as Ernie Harwell once told me, nothing happens until the announcer speaks. So this is what Rosie Rosewell of the Pirates and Byram Som of the Phillies and the other great broadcasters who began in the 1930s, they really gave even when they went to television, they gave a radio play-by-play, which I think is far preferable to acres of empty sound coming from a television set. They aired on the other side, if you would, but very few people complained, at least at that time, because keep in mind that when the first radio game happened in 1921, what a wonder, a miracle it must have seemed, sound coming through the air. And television was in essence an extension of radio. So the Harry Careys and the Bob Princes, the Mel Allens, Red Barber, Dizzy Dean, they all got their start. They were weaned on radio. Radio was their leather. So by the time they got to television, people expected rather a detailed description of a baseball game, and the voices of the game, they were pining to please.
Yeah, and you say that, it's interesting because, so I moved from Houston in 95 to Philly, and I had Milo Hamilton, and I forget who the color guys were, and they were very good. They're very good. And then I go to Philly, and I mean they continue. There was very little empty airspace even on television. Okay, down in Houston.
Yeah.
But when I get to Harry Carey, and then it was Richie Ashburn, there was a lot of I mean, not Harry Callis. There was a lot of empty air, and I'm thinking, this is not right. Yet I then find out how iconic Harry Callis really is. So it worked for him.
Well, yes. Yeah, there's no question about that. Well, the voice worked for him. I'll never forget when I was doing a biography of Mel Allen a number of years back, and I went to Philadelphia, and a appeared on one of the Phillies games, and Harry Callis was the announcer. And I was talking to Harry about a book on Mel Allen. It just struck me at that moment, and I said this on air. What a treat it is. Here I am talking to and about the two greatest voices, at least in my opinion, in baseball history. Harry Callis, who could stop a parade with several syllables, and Mel Allen as well, of whom an announcer once said that if Mel Allen did play-by-play of a pig festival, he would make you think that Puccini wrote the score. That's only slightly, if you would, an exaggeration. I mean, when I think of Mel Allen, and I think most of America would as well, that remembers them, he and Red Barber, they were the two great mid-century broadcasters, and even into the 1960s. Barber was white wine, crepe Suzette, and bluegrass music. Allen was beer, Ballantine beer, naturally, since it broadcast the Yankees, hot dogs, and the United States Marine Band. But this is how it was.
Yeah.
Every broadcaster had a certain style. You thought of them as an extended member of the family. You could imagine, for instance, having Richie Ashburn or Harry Callis or Byram Som or any of the great Philly broadcasters over the years popping in for a Thanksgiving dinner, and there'd be no social awkwardness. They would be greeted at the front door as if you'd known them all your life, and in a sense you had, because you got a sense, if you would, of the personality, the persona, the essence of the man from listening to them for hour after hour after hour. And many of us did, and we're very happy at that time that we did, because I think that the golden era of baseball broadcasting, the era to which you refer, was an age in which every broadcaster had a certain style. Barber was the great linguist. Vin Scully, whose name we haven't mentioned yet, which is certainly an omission, since he was the best there ever was. And he would, for example, talk about a runner on second base, and he would quote Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. And the tiny ship, in this sense, the runner was seeking safe harbor home plate. And those were references that Arthur Miller had made in his play, but Scully transferred it then to baseball. Yeah. Or, for example, when Vin is talking about the little footsteps of sunshine, or he catches the ball gingerly like a baby chick falling from the tree. Or I'll never forget, Mitch, this was a game, and Scully was I may have been a CBS radio game of the week, and he was talking about a relief pitcher who had, this is in the era of the great sideburns, if you would, the deep stretch from your earlobe down to your chin. Yes. And anyway, this relief pitcher entered the game, and this stirred and roused Vin Scully to ad-lib this bit of genius. He says, what ho, what type of men are these who wear the sideburns like parentheses? I mean, that is just one simple, one example of why. I over the years asked dozens, perhaps more than 100 broadcasters, who is the best baseball announcer of all time? No hyperbole. Every one of them has said Scully.
It's Scully, yeah.
And he deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I, like I said, grew up 60s and 70s watching the Mets. So
you were a lucky sort, let me tell you.
Bob Murphy, Lindsey Nelson, and Ralph Kiner. I didn't know much about Ralph and his career, but those three did it and that's three of them in the booth. They did it so perfectly, Kurt. It was seamless. Bob would do the play-by-play. Lindsey would do some color. Then they would. I think they would switch a little bit, and Ralph would do the color, the analyzing, and the voices. Number one, were so distinct. It was great. Love them. Just love them. Some other people.
Well, they were certainly one of the great trifectas in baseball history. Bob Murphy, who got a start with Curt Gowdy and the Red Sox from the 1950s, and Gowdy taught him to play it down the middle. Don't let anyone know who you're rooting for. Ralph Kiner, certainly a master of the malaprop. It was said that decades from now, centuries perhaps, we'll still be exchanging Kinerisms. And Lindsey Nelson. Lindsey Nelson was the voice of the Mets.
Yeah.
He had done NBC Network Baseball. He joined them in '62. He stayed with them until 1978, when he then returned to the West Coast to join his daughter. And he had one of the great Southern voices. It's amazing how many of the lyric Southern announcers come from Dixie, and I think it has something to do with, as Jimmy Dudley of the Indians once told me, think of the Southern voice. It's very soft, it's very leisurely, it's very relaxing. Well, that's baseball.
Yes.
You know, with intermittent bits of drama, but it basically is a very pacific kind of serene game, which is one reason it's so wearable, which is one reason that we love it. And Lindsey Nelson, God bless him, brought first of all an enormous capacity for suffering to being the voice of the Mets. Casey Stengel, their manager, said in 1962 when they won 40 and 120, and he said, "I don't ask, how we lost 120. I just wonder how we won 40."
Right. Exactly. Right. Yes.
And that was Nelson and Kiner and Murphy. Murphy and Nelson are in the broadcast wing of the Hall of Fame, receiving the Ford C. Frick Award each year for broadcast excellence. And Ralph Kiner, of course, is in the players' wing of the Hall of Fame, which he richly deserves. So Murphy said once, he said, "Here it is. The original Mets of 1962, they couldn't turn two if their lives depended on it. And here we are in the broadcast booth. Right. And when it comes to the Hall of Fame, we're 3 for 3.
There you go. Yeah, that's listen, that's one hell of a batting average, isn't there, for announcers? Is there, I don't know that there's anybody else. One thing I did want to ask you, Kurt, so I was, as before you were coming on, so Voices of Summer 2005 came out, right? You ranked the broadcaster. Right. You ranked the broadcasters.
Right.
Are there any new rankings out now anymore, or are there any more coming out? Number one, rankings. Number two, have you analyzed the teams, the play-by-play guy and the color analyst guy at all? Have you ranked any of those yet?
Well, I haven't necessarily, although who knows what we'll approach with the next book. But no, I have not revised Voices of Summer from 2005 for the simple reason that the top broadcasters haven't changed. Okay. At least in my view, Vince Scully is the Roy Hobbs of baseball broadcasting. Mel Allen was a close second. Ernie Harwell, Harry Carey, Bob Prince, and Lindsey Nelson, Dizzy Dean. Those are 7 of the top 10. And no, the top tier has not changed yet. Okay. It did in a sense, because that would say something more pleasant about young broadcasters than it does. Right.
You know who I also loved, and I've got to go in just a couple minutes, talking about people who are family, Saturday Game of the Week, NBC, Curt Gowdy. I mean, and you know what else, Kurt? You said the voices. They are so, every single one, and I have a list here. Euchre, who you didn't mention, Gary Cohen, Rizzuto and Messer, Jack and Joe Buck. Yeah. I mean, these voices are classic. If you put us in a room, in 2 seconds we know who they are. Anyway, so you haven't ranked them yet.
There's no question about that.
Yeah, yes. it's and
Euchre, of course, the Euchre who once said Howard Cosell was doing play-by-play with him, and Cosell said that Euchre as an ex-jock couldn't possibly know the definition of truculence.
I remember this.
Euchre said,
yes.
He said, "Sure, I do, Howie. If you had a truck and I borrowed it, that would be a truculent." Now that's genius too. That is.
Oh, absolutely. No, talk about quick on his feet. I mean, God bless these guys who are still with us. Too many have passed. But Kurt, let me do this. Kurt, I'll call you at some point. We'll work through this thing again, this issue we had with connecting, because I really want to see your face.
Sure.
I love this conversation.
Well, I'm not sure. You don't have to reserve judgment on that. No, I'd be very happy to join you again for as long as you want.
Kurt, they would be so much fun because we go back. I mean, listen, I'm 65. I grew up in the 60s. There are so many guys out there that I would love to talk about more specifically, and you know them well enough, written about them, and so many more. It's just an honor to talk to you, and I will reach out again, and we'll fix this issue with the link, and we'll get you one in the future. Would that be great?
That'd be terrific. Now you can see why I don't like technology.
I know you did say that. I know, but listen, either way,
when it works, it's great. When it doesn't, it ain't.
But we found a way. I needed to get you on. We found a way, and it worked. We got it.
You call me at any time.
Thanks, Kurt, so much. I really appreciate it. Have a good night. Okay.
You bet.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mitch.
Okay. Bye-bye. Well, folks, I hope you heard that. That was just awesome. As a baseball fan, I'm going to ask Jeff as he comes on now. Jeff Warren is coming up. Here he comes. We're going to talk Eagles, but I got to ask you, Jeff, you baseball too, right? Yes?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you have to. I mean, if we're 4 for 4 here at the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast show, yes. So yes.
Kurt, I mean, I found this guy, and I am, as a baseball freak, right, fanatic, I was like, oh, this is going to be so good. 18 books the guy's written. He's a Red Sox fan. Did you hear him at all spew all this?
Honestly, I didn't have a chance to hear him, but, if he's talking about the Philadelphia Phillies and the absolute mediocrity that this team is, then I'm all with him.
Talking about that. But let's go on to mediocrity. A nice segue. Good job on that. So I tweeted out and you saw it. Fake or a real win?
I don't know what's fake and what's real with this Eagles team anymore this season, quite frankly, Mitch. Because listen, I think we all knew. I think all of us Eagles fans that have been following this team for years, that are true diehard fans, we knew this year was going to be a developmental year in many different ways. Development on the offensive side of the ball, defensive side of the ball. From an offensive perspective, what is Jalen Hurts going to be able to provide this team in the future? Can he development? Is his pocket management going to get better? Is his footwork, his mechanics going to get better? Is the offensive line going to be able to stay healthy? Haven't really seen that too much. Landon Dickerson, second-round pick, getting some experience, getting some developmental experience too. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, we are seeing some development with Josh Sweat, of course. I like what we're seeing from Milton Williams as well on the defensive line, being a rookie, really just getting thrown in there. He's doing a lot of good stuff. But on the back end, secondary, look, I personally like Darius Slay and what he brings to the team. I like what he brings to the defense, but he's not a long-term piece, and neither is Steve Nelson either. So I have that concern from a developmental perspective about where this team is going this season, still, even as we're getting ready to enter week 9.
But you seem more logical than 90% of the Eagles fans that I read on Twitter, in that Jalen needs to go, needs to bench. We're not doing it. We all know Sirianni. We're going to talk about him in a minute, but
right,
give the kid a chance with a new coach. I don't understand the animosity. And listen, I get it. I worked security down there for 3 years at the link, and it's crazy. It's nuts. I get the passion, but why can't we give this guy a chance? He's a kid. Give him a chance.
To go back to your initial question, which unfortunately I don't think I answered, was it fake or was it real? I think, and what we talked about on our Eagles postgame podcast show this past week at the PST podcast show was that this was an opportunity. This really was an opportunity for the coaches and for Jalen Hurts to kind of shine and take whatever development he was going to be able to provide us this particular game against the Detroit Lions defense that is not very good, a secondary that is not very good, their linebacker core not very good at all. And I think to myself, what is the strategy in terms of running the ball and rushing it as much as they did? Am I glad they did it? Absolutely. Right. And when I reflect on the game too, Mitch, it's not a leap to watch the way the Eagles played and believe that's a more effective way to win with Jalen Hurts at quarterback than how they've tried throughout much of the season. I mean, Nick Sirianni wants his offense to take advantage of what the defense presents, but there's also something to the argument that the Eagles should lean into what they do well. And I think what they do well is what we're still learning a little bit about here, frankly. I feel like they were, through much of the season, have been throwing stuff against the wall. But let's throw this against the wall. Let's throw this over here. Let's see what sticks. Yeah. And I thought this past week, though, would have been a great opportunity for Jalen Hurts to really get the ball down the field, to really show that he's an accurate passer, if he is, and if that is developed, and what his footwork has been able to, what he's been able to do from a footwork perspective and pocket management. And we didn't see that. So do I want to give the kid time? Do I want to give him a chance? Absolutely. But what I'm seeing so far hasn't been giving him the opportunity to necessarily succeed because, again, they're just throwing stuff against the wall. And I don't necessarily think you're going to have success developing a quarterback in the NFL when you only have 32 of these guys that are starting. You know, I don't think you're going to have much success if you're just throwing stuff against the wall.
No, again, and that's part of giving him, and ad nauseum, Andy Reid, I got to put him in a better position. But it's so true. Use his skills. And if he's not going to be right now the passer that we want him to be, throwing the long ball, maybe we go back to a dink and a dunk, right? And let what was Miles Sanders, but now you got Boston Scott. We call him, in our family, we call him Sparky. We love the name Sparky. You know why? Because he looks like a spark. I mean, he just goes, he cuts, he's quick to the hole. I mean, I want to see him get a screen pass with some blocking. And I'm telling you, he'll gain 30, 40 yards. I'm telling you, you know that. So you had Boston Scott come out, right? Dallas Goedert, again, not that he didn't show up, but I love when they say didn't show up. I know there's part of that these guys got to get open, right? The receivers, whether it be a tight end or a wide out.
I thought Dallas Goedert had a good game. I thought he had a decent game.
He did. But what I was going towards was, is it really him not getting open, or is the defense really good, or is it the quarterback not able to? So they blame these guys for not showing up. But there's like we're doing. It's a two-way street. There's a give and take. If you're being covered, okay, don't throw to Goddard, throw somebody else. 16 passes, 46 runs, only 2 penalties, no turnovers.
They've been doing really well from a penalty perspective. I think this Eagles team has been a lot more disciplined over the past couple weeks in terms of the penalties. I think against the Raiders, I think they had 4 penalties, if I'm remembering correctly. And you just mentioned 2 this past week. This is a much more disciplined team than we saw in week 2.
Unbelievably better. And that was, so they made an improvement there, right?
And really quick, Mitch, quick though, to piggyback off what you were saying with regard to Dallas Goedert, and getting the ball to some of these receivers on this team, what I have really found interesting yet concerning as well, and especially after this past week, I'm going to go back to March of this year. Okay. And I know a lot of us were clamoring for the Eagles to draft a playmaker with the first pick. I was not happy when they actually moved down because I thought it was less likely that they were going to get that explosive offensive playmaker. And we end up with Devontae Smith. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is great. This is great. We have a Heisman Trophy winner coming to this wide receiver core. He's going to be the wide receiver number 1. Absolutely. No question about it. We saw, a little bit of growth here and there, I think, through training camp. Season starts, first game of the year, had 71 yards. Then there wasn't a whole lot of anything until the Kansas City game where we saw, 122 yards on 7 receptions. He averaged 17.4 yards per reception. But here's where I'm getting concerned now, Mitch, and I don't know if you are as well, and any of your viewers out there too. This is where I'm getting concerned, is the yards per target for Devontae Smith is really starting to go down and has gone down over the past 4 weeks. And against Carolina Panthers, a little over 8 yards per target. And then against Tampa Bay, a little over 7 yards. Against the Raiders, it's down 6 yards, average yards per target. And then last week against Detroit, he only caught 1 ball for 15 yards, and it was a 5 yard per target stat. And get a little concerned This is supposed to be the playmaker.
Yeah.
Why isn't he getting the ball down the field? This is a guy and player who has elite speed. He is an elite talent in this National Football League. He's got a lot to learn, of course, but he is an elite player. And I'm concerned that whether it's the coaching, whether it's Jalen Hurts not being able to get the ball to him down the field, or a combination of both, is not doing the Philadelphia Eagles organization and ultimately the fan base and the team overall any good when your number one wide receiver, his average yards per target is going down week after week. I'm a little concerned about it at this point.
Yeah, so we got to get him. That's him. There's another one. All right. We got to get in. We got to, first of all, we want to give these away. I got to probably do a number of catches in the next 2 weeks or something. But folks, we're going to do a giveaway up on Twitter. That's a great. That's a really good stat, Jeff. That's interesting. Yeah, that's.
Well, I think it's important. I think it's important from an evaluation standpoint. Devontae Smith is a very good wide receiver. He understands the game of football, and coming out, I mean, he's a Heisman Trophy winner. For some reason, he's getting 5 yards per target in this past game, only catching one ball for 15 yards. And I look at that and I say, how is that helping this team? How is it helping the development? Because quite frankly, as I said earlier, wins and losses, I don't think necessarily matter as much this year. Of course, we want our Philadelphia Eagles team to win, but we want to see development. And I'm not seeing that development from an offensive standpoint. Again, is it Nick Sirianni? Is it Jalen Hurts? Is it a combination of both? Probably is, but I just have that concern.
Yeah, it is interesting. And you do talk about the coaches, the defense, which is, you and I could play linebacker better than these guys if we maybe even wanted to go up against some of these receivers and, maybe get them at the line a little bit, maybe put a little pressure on them to get the route out. I mean, it boggles the freaking mind to see this defense, him sitting back. And it's not as good as when it was when they could they would bend but not break it in the red zone. That ain't these guys anymore. The new coach, the Gannon guy, I'm like, I don't know if this is something that we're very, very comfortable with. And yet, there's the fan base, they want to win, and we hate the defense, which I agree. And the offense is just so frustrating. And to me, that's all the coach. And then you talk about the other aspect, what you just mentioned, was the development. Who's developing these players? What about Quez Watkins? Quez has speed, right? Quez is also fast. I'd love to see them open up with a Quez Watkins throw.
Yeah.
Just open it up. Because then as we all know as football fans, you open up immediately, you get the defense, go, oh, crap. And it may not even be completed, right? But now you open it up for the run. And then you can run more. And then you can make more balanced attack and use Boston Sparky Scott and use Jordan Howard. Look at that, huh? Coming off the heap and look at what he does. I mean, it's just better. It was better this past Sunday, but was it a fluke? Was it fake because it's the Detroit Lions?
You gotta look who you're playing. I mean, it's important to look at who you're playing.
Or was it real and they soundly beat them, but if it was fake, would it have been more like a 20-point game than a 41-point game or whatever,
Yeah.
And so we'll see what happens this week. What are your thoughts coming up with the Chargers?
It's interesting. I had on the Philadelphia Sports Table podcast show, I did our opposition territory show, spoke to a gentleman who covers the Los Angeles Chargers and Los Angeles football in general. And we were talking about how Justin Herbert's had a real tough past couple of games against the Ravens. And then this past week up in Foxborough against the New England Patriots. And what he's trying to do is the brilliance of Justin Herbert has been trying to thread balls into really tight coverage. And the majority of the time it works. And we've seen the past 2 weeks where he's been trying to do that. Hasn't worked, so it looks like real terrible decisions. But the kid is incredibly accurate, and I personally think this is going to be a bounce back game for Justin Herbert, just based on where this Eagles secondary is. Yeah. I have concern with our safeties playing up against talent like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler coming out of the backfield is
Eckler,
what
yeah.
a weapon he is.
Ooh,
My
yeah.
gosh. And look, I think the Chargers are also vulnerable too when it comes to their rushing defense. They're
Okay.
basically the worst rushing defense in the league. There's nowhere for them to go but up. And do I think that the Eagles can exploit that? Of course. Do I think we're going to see a game similar to what we saw against Detroit Lions? I think it's absolutely possible. I think Jalen Hurts could possibly run for 80 yards, because I mean, that's what we're seeing from Jalen Hurts too. Like from a rushing perspective, gosh, I mean, he is, he's leading this Eagles team in rushing, 432 total yards on 73 attempts. Coming in next is Miles Sanders at 300 yards on 63 attempts. So I think you're going to see Jalen Hurts do a lot of rushing again this week. It would surprise me if the passing attack got ramped up again, quite frankly, Mitch.
So, Jeff, I wasn't able to watch the game because I'm here in North Carolina and we couldn't get it. Tell me about those Jalen Hurts rushes. Were some of those were they called plays or were they mostly scrambles?
Mostly scrambles. I think there might have been two. There may have been two or possibly at most three that were designed runs.
Okay.
Coming out of the pocket. I went back and I watched some of the game, and Mitch, there are times when the offensive line did a fantastic job this week. And again, it's the Detroit Lions defensive line. The Eagles definitely won in the trenches. Absolutely. 100% they won in the trenches. The pocket is there for Jalen Hurts for a good few seconds, and he's rolling to his right, rolling out of the pocket when he doesn't need to. I was talking about pocket management earlier. Just doesn't have it yet. And this was an opportunity this past game for him to do it. Do I think it's magically going to happen this coming week against the Chargers? I don't. I think he's going to need to really have an entire season under his belt to really re-examine how he's focusing on that pocket management. But he's really just rolling out to his right after a good second. And,
and that's
when the pocket is there for him.
Yeah, and that's what I heard last week, that he needs to stay in the pocket, and he's just not able to do it. And that's an issue because as you see the good quarterbacks, the experienced ones, the vets, that thing, the pocket comes out and he steps up, right? And that's what he needs to do. Instead, he's getting panicky and he runs.
Right.
So let me ask you this. We still got 6 minutes left.
Okay.
So I'm hearing, so I want to go through the season with you because at the beginning of the season, after looking at the schedule, the first half, were they 3-5? The second half, if they can, I mean, we know what they have. They have Devonta Smith. They have Jalen Reagor. And they have Jalen Hurts. You want to give these away, folks. I'm pushing on that. And no more Miles Sanders, unfortunately.
At least for a little bit.
Yeah. All right, so and this is so funny. The interesting thing about the schedule is they're 0-3 at home. They're going to be 0-4 at home after this weekend, right?
Yeah, probably.
So
to be honest with you, I think they're going to be. I do. But what you're talking about, though, exactly. But like what you're talking about is trust. You're really talking about trusting this group and talent that's on the field offensively and defensively. And I as a fan, I don't necessarily trust them to win games. I want to trust them to develop. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Talked about it on our post-game show, Mitch, this past week that, it was good to see Jalen Reagor getting involved in the game early this week before he went out with his ankle injury, but he was getting involved in the rushing game. I want my first round talent, wide receiver, going down the field. He's supposed to stretch the field. His speed is one of the reasons why the Philadelphia Eagles drafted him in the first place. I don't necessarily want him, running in motion and in the backfield and taking a handoff. Like I don't want that from my number one wide receiver. I would prefer if somebody like Quez Watkins was doing that. Somebody who's like a 4th, 5th rounder. I want my first round talents going and getting down the field, getting those jump balls. I want them to get some separation, get some spacing, and we really haven't seen that. So I don't necessarily trust this team, even though the schedule looks pretty good. I don't necessarily trust them because of how they're being utilized on the field.
Well, here's a thought. Could you imagine if they had lost to the Lions this past week?
Honestly, Mitch, if you listen to our podcast show, I picked them to lose. My
You
co-hosts
did?
and I
Okay.
picked them to lose.
That's
Yes,
so
actually,
funny.
one of my co-hosts picked the Eagles to win.
Okay.
God bless them.
That's funny. All right, so Chargers is a loss. What do you think happens in Denver?
In Denver, I mean, it's tough to say. Denver losing Von Miller and that trade to the Rams,
Yeah.
it's going to obviously hurt their defense. But again, I go back to trust. I don't know if I trust this team to win against the Broncos. I think that's going to be one of those type of games. It'll probably be a little bit more defensive than offensive because you see what type of talent the Denver Broncos have.
Yes.
Arguably, they're in a rebuild at this point now too.
Uh-huh.
So I think that's going to be more of a defensive type of game.
Okay, so we have them at 3-7 right now. New Orleans.
I don't think they beat New Orleans.
All right, so we're
and again, a lot depends on injuries. If Miles Sanders is back by then, that could be something good for this team if he is utilized the way that he should be utilized, and especially in the screen game, because they obviously love him with the screen game earlier on this season. Right. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if he's going to beat the Saints, and we don't know who the Saints quarterback is going to be too.
Well, that's
true. Talk that Phillip Rivers is getting some phone calls, quite frankly.
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you go. They should win these next 5 games. Giants, Jets, Washington, Giants, Washington. They should. If they don't win those 5, there's a problem. So then they go to 8-8, and then they're at 9. They're home against Dallas, last game of the season. So they could.
Oh, they're not going to beat the Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean they're going to go at 8, but again 8-9, right? Not bad considering people were predicting them to go 3-3 and whatever. 3-14.
Right, but I would also ask Eagles fans too. Like, do we want that to actually happen? Do we want 8-9 season? Because next year is going to be historic, Mitch. Next year is historic with the likelihood of 3 first-round draft picks. The higher those picks are, the better it's going to be to now nail that talent that this team desperately needs on offense and especially on defense. I mean, the defensive backfield has been neglected for way too long when it comes to
the linebackers. Yeah. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
terrible. They should have picked up. Didn't they have a chance? Micah, is that Micah Parsons, Penn State?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a Penn State guy. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if you can see this right here. That's my degree from Penn State, here.
They should have picked him up. I was thinking they should have. All right, Jeff. Listen, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Mitch, thanks for having me on, buddy. I really appreciate it. It was great to see you. Great to talk about the Eagles.
You were terrific. Great knowledge. I wish it was longer. Had a problem with Kurt, so hopefully we'll get him on, and we'll talk. I love talking to you guys because I'm not as much as a football geek as you guys are, right? As people that I talk to. And it's great to hear the specifics and the stats on more baseball. But, I love it. It's just awesome that you guys can bring this stuff. And I really appreciate all the knowledge you bring. It's awesome.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And anytime, I'll come on.
That's terrific, Jeff. Thank you so much. You can find him at Jeffrey_Warren, Philadelphia Sports Table Podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. At Philadelphia PST on Twitter as well.
That's it. All right, Jeff. Thank you, my friend. Awesome job. Appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy. Take care and go Birds.
Yeah, go Birds. Exactly right. Take it easy. All right, folks. Great conversation there. Appreciate you watching and listening. A couple more minutes coming up on 12 Ounce Sports Network live on Zingo TV channel 761. The Real Captain Lou Show with Lou Gamelin. Lou, 8 o'clock. College football playoff, he's going to talk. He's going to talk NFL trade deadline. Not much happened. The William Riggs traffic accident. He's going to talk about that, the DUI that he got, and a difficult situation for him. The World Series that starts momentarily, and the Captain Lou six-pack challenge and Week 9 preview of the National Football League and college football. Real quickly, November 30th, put it down. Another great baseball author, Peter Golenbach, is going to come on. Look him up. Amazing author, a lot of baseball books. In the meantime, enjoy your week. We will see you next Tuesday. Happy birthday, Sean. And everybody take a nice break and root for the Astros. That's all I'm going to say. Take care, everybody. This is the Burn with Mitch on 12 on Sports saying bye-bye.